Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday. And today I thought it would be interesting to go into music's lyrics, or in particular, discuss the lyrics that are involved when creating music. Um, Obviously, there is some huge exceptions to this rule of having a song with lyrics. I mean, that is definitely the common mantra, at least nowadays, and I believe even within the 20th century, even maybe going further back. But largely, that's something that's fairly modern and is based within modern, I think, construction, largely. Although, again, there are obviously some songs, more choir oriented songs that did involve some lyrics. Um, Largely, the earlier days of encompassing music usually didn't involve inserting words. For example, uh, Beethoven largely didn't use people's voices and had lyrics within a lot of his famous works. If you look through his extensive library, um, Beethoven to even some artists today who are mostly based within trying to create things that are, I guess you could say, within the entertainment industry that just involve kind of enhancing the emotional mood. For example, um, artists like John Williams, Hans Zimmer, they create these very interesting and elaborate instrumental pieces, but don't focus on trying to generate lyrics for the most part. And obviously, there's some exceptions. And yes, there is largely a lot of artists that were intentionally instrumental artists that also dived into inserting some lyrics, but that wasn't really the primary focus. Um, and I think largely as time went on and music became more modernized, as you will see within the 20th century, that's where we get this kind of standard where largely now artists who put out songs are encompassing lyrics within them. Um, and I think that has partially to do with the fact that maybe uh, I think at least people that are living within this generation and lived within the 20th century, they largely feel it's, I think, uh, or at least I believe they think it probably has some extra entertainment value associated with it. And lyrics kind of provide something interesting and a kind of direction for the audience member in order to understand kind of what the song is ultimately trying to encompass. Whereas when you would have a piece done by Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, or whoever, during the olden days, you largely had to sort of just sit and imagine and interpret things for yourself, and create your own kind of visual world surrounding the music. Whereas now, you could say it's probably due to people's lower attention span, and it might also have to do with the fact that people, by and large, kind of want to identify with something through a song, and largely that comes through in what the song ultimately is saying, and largely that is interpreted through lyrics as opposed to just stating the instrumental portions. So I think that this shift, you could say, has been good or bad because obviously I think there's a lot of lyrics to songs out there that are very in depth, very interesting, offer some kind of creativity and really some genuine effort in constructing them. Other times, they feel very standard, generic. You can tell that the artist really didn't try. Um, Sometimes when you listen to certain songs, but the interesting thing too about lyrics though is that once they're sort of written down, people kind of can interpret them however they want to, even though it might be stating things that isn't clear to the audience unless they kind of read into it more. It kind of gives way to a platform for interpretation. As opposed to, again, something that's instrumental where you have to take it and think to yourself, okay, what am I envisioning when I listen to this song? Or what are the feelings that I am getting by listening to this? Whereas when you have some kind of vocals that involve speaking or at least singing something that's attached to maybe a certain thing, people will kind of interpret that thing to be however they kind of want it to be, unless the lyrics are kind of clear. And I do try to do this with a lot of the times within my videos. I do try to do research beforehand and also see and look within the lyrics and kind of give you a clear understanding of the full, I think, interpretation of it, in the context of the way in which the lyrics are written, because some of these lyrics can be fairly open to interpretation, and I think a lot of the times, more than not, you'll find that within a lot of songs that even though maybe the artist had certain intentions for what he wanted the song to, he or she wanted the song to ultimately mean, you can gander up different ideas. So as a result, sometimes that interpretation can be controversial. Obviously, we've seen this recently with certain songs that have involved fairly controversial issues and people getting all hyped up or wound up over them. You also, though, get a sense of what lyrics really, or what at least lines that are within the lyrics really do stick out and are memorable. Largely, that is involved within the chorus of the song. Like you'll hear the chorus, don't stop believing, thinking literally journey throughout the entire song, because those are the lyrics that are not only the title of the song, but also part of, the chorus and are part of enhancing the whole kind of message and feelings behind the song. So I think that's something that's also very powerful with lyrics is you can say how you feel. You can express it. Whereas with instrumentals, obviously you can express it through writing the song down, but ultimately, it's not something that you can express through your own thoughts. It's just kind of a series of different things that might be occurring within your mind, but again, lyrics add a whole nother kind of dimension to a song. So I think that's really what puts this kind of structure in the 20th and 21st century to its advantage, and why I think the majority of people, at least from what I know nowadays, listen largely more to this kind of standard. Now, that's not to say that music that doesn't involve lyrics cannot be powerful or cannot resonate with an audience, because I think they can, by and large. But I think it's important to not, I think, diminish the value that lyrics have to a song and to people, because I think really those are the things that ultimately kind of express the ways in which an audience member could interpret them. And I think what's interesting too is I think lyrics can sort of make or break a song. Um, and I think largely that has to do with the fact in how they choose the lyrics and where to kind of insert them. Sometimes you'll notice how sometimes a certain word just sounds maybe a little bit off to you when you're listening to a song. Like you go, this word doesn't seem right. They maybe should have used a different word than this one. So really, I think the way in which the syllables are laid out within a word, as well as how they flow with all the rest of the lyrics, I think really does make a difference and makes the song just creative and just unique in the respect of trying to make things flow. And there's a certain amount of, again, artistry put into it. It's not just slapped on there for the sake of just slapping it on there. There's actually some care given to it. And I think this is something that I think some artists unfortunately miss today, is the whole notion of putting together lyrics that actually not only make sense, but not saying that all lyrics have to make sense, but at the same time, making it to the level where you feel like that there was some genuine effort put into it. Like you thought that somebody literally took the time to write things out and wasn't just slapping words together. And I think that's really a big problem we're seeing with a lot of songs nowadays. And I'm not saying that, oh, it's a generational thing and that songs in the past didn't have suffer from this similar problem. But I think it's been a largely more growing trend, at least nowadays, for some reason. And I'm not sure what it is. I think it might be due to laziness or whatnot. But at the same time, there's obviously a lot of artists out there who do put in forth their energy and time into crafting their lyrics. And usually those artists are probably not as well recognized or maybe as famous. But at the same time, there is some genuineness to lyrics nowadays, but I think that's somewhat steadily declining. Um, and I think that's really an important thing to kind of note. As far as the context of the lyrics and to the voice of the person singing the song, sometimes also that's a big factor, because sometimes someone could sing a song with certain lyrics fairly well, and then other times that artist is completely incapable of doing so. And largely it might be due to an enunciation thing, it might be due to not being able to fully digest the instrumental parts that go along with the song. So there could be a variety of factors into why sometimes this lyrics to vocalist approach that must be taken, obviously, doesn't ultimately end up working sometimes. And sometimes there needs to be adjustments made, and that's why it's almost good to just have the vocalist, make the lyrics, because he/she is going to be the one singing them, so it only makes sense. But really, I think that's what it ultimately all boils down to. I think there might be some typical kinds of concepts and ideas that come up within various genres. Like if you look at country music, like literally, I would say probably a good 70%, to be generous, mentions beer. I am not kidding you. Like, I have listened to a country station, and all I hear in a lot of the songs is about beer. There is some reference to a truck. It's a love song. There not only maybe beer, but whiskey's another thing too. It's all appealing to that particular culture that country music kind of tries to associate itself with. And it's the same with rap music, using certain slang words within lyrics. And rock music has this too, although rock music I think has been more of a generational thing. So you'll see how, for example, within the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of references to the Vietnam War as a common thing that was inserted into the lyrics. You also saw, various other references to a variety of different kinds of social, I guess you could say, issues. Songs about drugs were fairly common back then too. So, there is a cultural generational kind of thing that you'll see that's kind of inserted within a lot of the music that you will listen to. And all of that comes through the lyrics. You really do see the idea and the image of the artist through the lyrics and what time they were from. And what cultural background they came from, and what what kinds of ideas they want to put forward. Like and obviously the Straight Out of Compton song is probably saying a lot. It's talking about a lot of different issues compared to something like Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. So there's all these different ideas, and I think really adding in lyrics brought something new to the table, and really is something that I think is largely going to be the standard for music, and I don't think it's really going to surface back into complete instrumental again. But it's always good to have the just instrumental music, but at the same time there is this huge dimension that people I think are really utilizing, and I think can utilize very effectively, and largely that is trying to put lyrics and make that a part of a song, an album. Yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say though about this topic. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.